So meanwhile, two huge developments stateside because former President Donald Trump, the Republican nominee for president, continues to be in court in the hush money trial. He was face-to-face with a porn star in court yesterday. But at the same time, we're going to get to this in just one moment, one of his biggest trials, a classified document case, was indefinitely postponed by Eileen Cannon yesterday. So let's start first in New York, where Stormy Daniels, who is alleged to have had an affair with Donald Trump in 2006 in Lake Tahoe, looks like that affair likely happened. I don't know that we need the allegedly, but
fact check true on that one.
Yeah. But that is, of course, part of the case, which is why she was testifying on behalf of the prosecution. So we can go ahead and put the first element up here. We're going to roll a clip. This is a clip from CNN of people just talking about what was happening in the courtroom yesterday.
One thing that I've been sort of noticing as this has gone on is that there have been a couple times where she seems to be cracking a joke, trying to get a reaction from the jury. And our reporters in the room have noted that the jury hasn't seemed to respond to that.
No, they're taking their job seriously.
I mean, what do you make of that?
Humor is risky in the courtroom, especially if you go in with lines. Like it looks like Stormy. If something happens spontaneously, if an easel falls over, people will laugh. They're human. But it's never going to work if you go in there like, I'm going to amuse the jury. I'm going to sort of say this clever thing.
So there's Jake Tapper, Casey Hunt, and I think Eli Honig, CNN senior legal analyst, talking about what was happening in the courtroom yesterday. And actually, it was a pretty interesting scene in the courtroom yesterday. The judge at one point actually admonished Donald Trump for cursing. And this is a Judge Juan Merchan.
Cursing about, like in response to probably just saying BS. Like,
probably.
Because there was some reporting that people could audibly hear him saying BS.
And that's right. And that's what the judge, again, Juan Merchan, was saying. I think he said something like, I don't want, you to continue, I don't want you to embarrass yourself, basically. Those sort of patronizing, approach from the judge. But he said something like, you're audibly cussing. And Stormy Daniels, meanwhile, was regaling the jury, or as Casey Hunt was kind of describing, they're attempting to regale the jury in very colorful terms about what happened allegedly in 2006, going into intimate details, quite literally intimate details about all of that. The judge actually cut her off at one point. CNN's analysis said that it seemed like the prosecution was trying to focus Stormy Daniels on this. Now, substantively, an interesting part of her testimony is that she said her publicist had been trying to sell a story about the affair around the time of the 2016 election, but didn't really get any interest until after the Access Hollywood tape came out, at which point they were able to sell it to what AMI, I think is the formal company that was the David Pecker. And David Pecker has already testified as well, the catch and kill attempt. And that's what this hush money trial is about, that there was a hush money arrangement, catch and kill arrangement with this $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels over what happened. Now, she is going to be back in court on Thursday. The judge seemed to be pretty displeased with how everything proceeded, and I think at one point said some of these details needn't have been in court. The point of Stormy Daniels, the prosecution getting Stormy Daniels to talk about in detail, she talked about spanking Trump with a magazine. She talked in very, very great detail about what she says happened that night. The point is obviously to establish that it was something that was real. Thus, here's the incentive for the hush money payment. If it wasn't a real gripping story, why would Donald Trump pay this money? Now, Trump would and will obviously argue that he paid the money because he's trying to silence somebody who's spreading a vicious lie about his marriage. That's going to be the argument. That has been the argument. But Ryan, that was just quite a scene in the middle of an election.
And it's just wild. And right, like you said, Eileen Cannon, who was Trump appointed seems about as Trump friendly a judge as you could possibly get, just basically said, never mind about this trial.
Yeah, this is, we can put B2 up.
She said, well, we got to do all this discovery and there's a lot of work to do. And so we're just going to punt this and we'll get back to you about when we're gonna have this. The one that that is moving the fastest and that he seems to be the most obviously, a bunch of them he's kind of obviously guilty of. Everybody gets their day in court, but come on.
Well, whether he's legally guilty or ethically guilty is a different question.
Like, did he do this thing? Like, did he have an affair with Stormy Daniels and then direct hush money payments to silence it in the middle of the campaign? Yeah. Like he did that.
Is it an illegal campaign expense? That's honestly a much tougher question.
Right, because it's this. They have to prove that he did it for the campaign reason and not because he just was embarrassed.
Only for the campaign reason. It can't be for anything else.
And how do you get inside his head? Like,
does anyone want to get inside his head?
Yeah, what's going on in there? And so, yeah, he did the thing, but also he's in the least peril.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, the only way to me that I can see him going to jail as a result of this Stormy Daniels trial is through contempt conviction, which almost feels like he wants to.
Yeah. And he could go to jail.
He wants the judge to throw him in Rikers for a day or two.
And he could have. I agree with that. I completely agree with that because he might see that as something that makes it ratchets up the stakes even higher for anyone else to throw him in prison. If you sort of test the country's reaction to a former president actually being thrown in Rikers, and it could just be for a lunch hour, it could be for a day or two, in the contempt for him not listening to the instructions of the judge, not to, yesterday I think he came out of court and said something very vague, like any honest reporter would say that was a crazy day in court, something like that. But if he keeps pushing this judge, who Trump is probably eager to push because, again, his daughter works for a public relations firm in Chicago whose top client is Adam Schiff. It's a narrative for Trump. Shocking they found somebody with liberal family in New York. Yes. But you can see how Trump would seize on that. I kind of agree with you that he's intentionally pushing this potentially to the brink of going to jail. He's not far from it at this point at all. And even in this case, you've had the New York Times publishing lawyers on the left, progressive attorneys, saying that the Bragg case is weak. So does Donald Trump want to push the Bragg case, since it's first here, front and center, to the brink, get thrown in jail, and then sort of see what happens in the rest of the cases, dare everyone else to push the country in that direction? I actually think that could possibly be part of the strategy. And Trump going to Rikers would not only be amazing for the drama, but it would also have potentially long-lasting implications for his approach to criminal justice reform. Basically every politician who ever goes to jail comes out changed as they see the criminal justice system. Blago, yeah. From left to right. Because experiencing it firsthand, experiencing the incredible dehumanization that goes on in our criminal justice system, and experiencing it with other humans who you come to recognize as just people, some of them did horrible things, others didn't and just got caught up in the system, but they're all humans. And then to have yourself lumped in with them in this dehumanizing system, it changes people and it changes the way they think about the criminal justice system. Now, Trump is not a normal human, so it might be impossible for him to absorb the same kinds of lessons that other people do, given whatever weird kind of psychology goes on inside that noggin of his. But it's possible. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. So just a couple of quick bits about the Eileen Cannon case. So I don't know, a lot of people on the left have been saying this is and sort of center analysts, this is a big win for the Trump team. And this is the documents one where he classified documents. Left with all the boxes of documents and stuff. Right, Mar-a-Lago classified documents. And again, a lot of people saying this is a win for Donald Trump, a straight win for Donald Trump. Well, maybe Team Trump thinks that, and maybe anti-Trump people think that. But this could push the case to August and September. So that's where the Trump people right now want the case to land. The prosecution is pushing for a July trial start date to begin. There's going to be a hearing on June 24th, and this is what looks like a win for Team Trump. They wanted to sort of have a conversation or have a hearing about Biden records, essentially Trump's request for Biden's records, and Eileen Cannon actually agreed to that on June 24th. So that's something coming up fairly quickly, just a little bit over a month away. But the May trial date now will be pushed either to midsummer if the prosecution gets its way, or late summer, early fall, within months of the election. And whether or not that's good for Donald Trump, I actually think is an open question. Eileen Cannon I think she makes an interesting point when she says that this case presents some serious novel, is the word she used, challenges with classified information. No question about that. So it doesn't seem like an insane decision to me, but pushing it into late summer, early fall, I don't know that that's even helpful for Donald Trump, to be honest. That's an interesting point, yeah. Because that's when things are going to be really heating up. A lot of the other legal dates are coming up around that time period too, and that's when he has to be campaigning. From just pure political strategy perspective, that's when you would want to be. It's more important to be campaigning then than it is in May. Yeah. So, who knows?
Yeah, and what about, and so then the Georgia case is just petering along because of the prosecution
the Fannie Willis stuff, right.
And then Jack Smith, what happened to that guy?
Still out there.
Didn't he, he had a case? What happened to his case?
I mean,
when's that case coming?
It's still out there. The full timeline is like almost impossible to keep track of. And because, honestly, precisely because it keeps changing all of the time. I'm looking at it right now. If you get into the fall, so if you push, for example, this one into the fall, CNN has a crazy calendar here. So Fulton County prosecutors' proposed trial date is August 5th, which is literally like 3 weeks after the Republican convention, right ahead of
a week. It's about a week before the Dem convention.
Yeah, about a week before the Dem convention.
So his trial would still probably be going on during the Democratic convention. So you'd have a split screen of Democrats giving their speeches in Chicago, protests roiling Chicago, right, and Trump getting prosecuted.
Right, and remember also that would be if Trump's team gets their way, then he would be pivoting right before Labor Day or potentially right after Labor Day from that trial back to the Eileen Cannon trial. I mean, it's just really crazy, this timeline into the fall, especially if this one changes. And this, by the way, we should mention, is what a lot of legal analysts see as by far the most serious case against Donald Trump.
The Jack Smith one.
The classified documents case.
I mean, it does seem like a slam dunk, but also you're gonna lock him up for that? I mean, they certainly have locked up plenty of whistleblowers for it.
Yeah, they absolutely have.
It's just impossible for me to believe they'd lock up anybody with any power for that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
maybe
disagree.
I'm wrong.
I mean, I don't disagree with that. But whether the legal case is probably the best for the prosecution, I guess, because they've had some success with the Espionage Act over the years, which is, of course, what Trump has tried with.
And also, he so flagrantly did it. And he's like telling people, he's like, there's audio of him telling people, this is classified.
Yeah.
You can't, I shouldn't have this. It's like just hilariously guilty stuff.
Billionaire white-collar criminals going to Rikers is typically delicious, but if it's going to be Donald Trump, I would really like to see Hillary Clinton too. If we're gonna do this, let's do it.
Lock them all up.
Let's do it. Lock them all up.
Put bars around this whole city.
Yeah, probably fair. Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.
Help us build independent news and get the full show every morning at breakingpoints.com.